Okay, guys, if you hear any noise in the background, probably just a few dogs barking and stuff like that. I want to talk to you guys about the 17 HMR. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit on this card if I can. So anyway, the 17 HMR Hornady Rimfire Magnum. I've got a few of these here. I've got this one here. This is the 17 grain VMAX. This is the one I use the most. 2550 FPS. I've got Winchester Varmint. This is a lead-free round, 15.5 grain. This one's 2550 also. And then I've got a 17 grain soft point by CCI. This is 20 grain and 2375. So I'll show you them. Here's the Winchester lead-free, the Hornady VMAX, and the CCI. There they are there. Now this one is considered a soft point, but if you notice there's a little dish right there. So it probably acts like a hollow point, even though they call it a soft point. So there we are, 17 HMR. And I want to show you a pellet, 16 grain, what they call an Un Jin. Many years ago, they called this an Un Jin pellet, which is a 16 grain, 177 pellet. Now they do have 21 grain pile driver pellets that are real heavy. For some of them 12 foot-pound air guns they use in England. The pile driver was a pellet specifically designed for some of them 12 foot-pound air rifles so that it would retain much of its energy rather than lose it so quickly. But that's an Un Jin, and I think they call it Seneca now. So that's 16 grains, and this here is 17, so you get an idea. It's basically the same diameter as a pellet, 177 pellet. So if you're thinking Daisy Red Ryder, you know, 4.5 millimeter, this is probably the king of them all right here. So anyway, what I want to talk about here is velocities and energies and stuff like that. Let's see if I can get this card here. Okay, so here we go. 17 HMR, this is 17 grain. VMAX, ballistic coefficient 0.1270. I think that's what it is. Sometimes I make mistakes on ballistic coefficients. But if you look here at the energies, like for instance point blank range, 2550, 245 foot-pounds, that's the same as a 38 special. Now the thing to remember is that the energy is concentrating on this small point. 250 or 245 foot-pounds is concentrated on that tiny little bullet, and that's why it blows up. If it was big like a 38, probably wouldn't blow up that much. But because it's so small, it can't handle 250 or 245 foot-pounds or whatever in that area. It can't handle it, so it blows up. So we go down here to 100 yards, and it's got 136 foot-pounds of energy, so it's like a hot 22 round, like in a 22 rifle, like a Stinger or something, or a Velociter in a regular 22 rifle. And then 71 foot-pounds here, I put like a 22 pistol. A lot of 22 pistols run about 60 to about 80 foot-pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. So 22 pistol, still got some energy there at 200 yards. And then what we see here is when it goes below that, the energies drop right around air gun energies, like your high-powered air rifles. For instance, 24 foot-pounds is the same as a Magnum 177 air rifle, one of them spring piston ones, or PCPs. 24 foot-pounds is still quite a bit of energy. They've taken hogs with 24 foot-pounds with good shot placement. So that goes to show you that at 500 yards, it still can be lethal. You can see right here, 24 foot-pounds. So when we're going over here now, at 25 yards, we're below by a ½ inch, and then 100 yards, we're going to zero it at 100. I use factory sights. I don't use a scope on mine, so I can adjust my elevation and stuff with the notches. So here's a 0 at 100 yards, and then you'll notice that at 200 yards, it drops 8 inches, which isn't too bad. But then when you get to 300 yards, notice that it's got quite a big drop. And I noticed that with my factory sights, I can shoot really good out to 250 yards at water jugs, 1 gallon water jugs. And 250 yards is about your standard combat distance, where you're going to engage like an enemy as far as factory sights on a rifle. So right around 250 yards. And if we go to 250 yards right here, you will see that the energy is still, well, a little bit under a 22 long rifle. But like I said, 24 foot-pounds has taken hogs before with good shot placement. So it can still be lethal within that 250 yard range right there. And we see that once we get past 300 yards, we can see that the drop just gets incredible. Lots and lots of drop. Now there have been guys that shot 5 or 6 inch balloons out at 500 yards a few times, but it's kind of a long stretch for a 17 HMR. And the other thing I want to let you guys know about too is that it has Mach speed, and somewhere in this area, right at about 150 yards, it's going to drop from supersonic down to subsonic, which means sometimes you'll get a little bit of turbulence and stuff like that. And your accuracy might fall off, once it falls below 1125 feet per second, depending on your elevation, humidity, and stuff like that. Like my state, the Mach speed is going to be different than yours. Every state is going to have a different elevation. But I've noticed that it doesn't affect the accuracy too much out at 200 and 250 yards, but I do notice some changes out at 300. But that's, like I said, that's a long stretch, only 42 foot-pounds of energy. So we're talking about a 250 yard flat shooter with factory sights, if you're going to go factory sights. And what I put here is from 0 to 250 yards factory sights, and then from 250 yards on, a scope. So you'll probably need a scope after that, if you're going, say, like after water jugs and stuff like that. I've hit water jugs out to 250 yards before. 100 yards, not a problem. 250 yards, more focus, you have to be more steady, and you have to hold proper to hit them out at this range, but you can. So at combat distances, the 17 HMR is effective out to 250 yards. So, and the thing about this cartridge too is, yes, it's small, yes, it's a varmint round, but you have to understand that when this hits something, it explodes. And this cartridge here, like I said, it's more powerful than this 177 pellet rifle energy right here when it's at 250 yards. So you're looking at double the energy, and this one was taking hogs at 24. So if you got 50 foot-pounds, you still got double the energy right at 250 yards. So although it probably won't blow up like it should, it's probably going to yaw like a 5.56. When a 5.56 hits something, it's unstable and it starts to flip and yaw. Same thing with this 17 HMR here. So don't underestimate the 17 HMR for self-defense. One of the reasons why I think it's effective is not because of its energy, because it's just insanely accurate. The rifles, heavy barrel rifles with these, the accuracy is just absolutely stunning. And if you can have accuracy, shot placement is key, and that's what stops the threat. Shooting this thing, say like through a heart or something, not to get graphic, but a heart is where you drop the blood pressure, or the narrow band in between the eyes and the ears where the brain is. Don't underestimate this cartridge here. I know it's not a 5.56, but don't underestimate it for self-defense. If all you have is a 17 HMR and you have something like a dot on it or a scope or just factory sights, you can still use it. And the other thing about scopes with the 17 HMR is I think that there's a need for having different types of scopes, but for this one here, I'm kind of the type that would probably have like a 2-to-7 scope for something like this, because of the fact that you're only going to be shooting out to say like 250 yards mostly, and that's its effective range, and that's where it starts to drop a lot, and then it also starts losing energy a lot. So out to 250 yards with the scope, 2-to-7 power. And the thing that's nice about 2 power or even 1 power scope is that when you're hunting, when you have that lower power, you can see more. You can see more when you're small game hunting as far as your field of view. So if you have it on 1 power or 2 power and you're within, say, like 100 yards or something, or closer in, you're going to be able to track that animal much better than if you had like a 24 power scope. Some guys do that with these 17 HMRs. They put a big old 24 power scope on it when the rifle was designed to be a lightweight rifle. So here you got a lightweight rifle, and they're putting big, huge scopes on these things so that when you stand up and shoot it, you got all that extra weight. It wasn't really meant for that. You can do it if you're doing bench shooting, but if you're hunting and you're standing up, you don't want to have too big of a scope on your rifle because it's lightweight to begin with, right around 5 to 7 pounds. So you don't want to put a big old scope on there and increase the weight. So 2-to-7 by 32 is fine. Mil-dot reticle, it's going to do great for them ranges out to 250 yards. And that's its useful range for the type of things like target practice, hunting, things like that. If you want to get extreme and crazy, yeah, you can go out to 500 yards, get a good scope on it, maybe higher power, but I don't really go out to them distances, and I've seen videos anyway of what it does at them distances, and if they've already shot them distances, then I know what the rifle will do. So I don't need to put a big old scope on mine. I'm just going to keep my factory sights or put a 2-to-7 scope on there, or even try a 1 power scope, like a 1-to-7 or something like that, and have it like for kind of like a scout rifle, something that's close in that still gives you a sight picture as far as a scope view. And even people have been experimenting with dot sights with 17 HMRs, which seem to work out pretty good too. So having a dot sight might be something. I might want to put one of my dot reticles up on my rifle and try that out too. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the video about the 17 HMR. It can be used for self-defense. It is very, very accurate. The rifles are light. You can get on target very quickly. If you have a bolt action, obviously you're not going to get shots fast, but the whole key is the accuracy and the lightweight, and it's got enough velocity and enough flat shooting trajectory to do anything you need out to 250 yards as far as small game. And obviously if you're in a defense situation, they're not going to be 250 yards. I mean, if they are, you're probably going to find cover anyway. But I'm talking about if you're on the highway and you got some road rage thing going on and you have your rifle, with you or whatever, 0 to 100 yards, this thing shoots super, super, super flat. And you can't mess with it. Shoots very, very small groups, even with iron sights and stuff. I think I showed you guys what I was doing at 100 yards. So 6-inch target was no problem with this at 100 yards. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching.